Hi, I'm Jenna. I'm here at the Yukon Transportation Museum, and I'll tell you what, I really miss Skagway and I really miss Haines, and it got me thinking about the border and why it is where it is, and this is what I found out. So all of this area has been peopled since time immemorial. About 300 years ago, Russian traders came through the Gulf of Alaska. They were looking for fur-bearing creatures like otters. And as they got further towards what is now the Alaskan Panhandle, their supply chains to Russia were getting so long and tenuous. At the same time, there was American traders working their way up the coast, and these Russian traders became reliant on the American traders for supplies. What that meant is that they needed to have a little discussion about where each had their hunting, trapping territory. And if you've heard of the term 54-40 or fight, at the time, the Americans said that the northernmost part of Oregon territory was 5440, and that would be, well, it would be right about here. This line going across here is 55, current day Prince Rupert, British Columbia. So they were settling on that. This is 1824, 1825. They were also concerned with the easternmost boundary of Russia and, of Russian Alaska. Sorry, I guess it's Russia, could say that. So there was a few things under debate. The British wanted 140 degrees latitude. The Russians wanted 139. What was finally settled upon, because all their eyes were on this southern decision. So the Russians made a concession and they allowed for 141, which is right about there on the map. 70-ish years later, there was gold discovered on a little creek called Rabbit Creek or Bonanza Creek in the Klondike River Valley near Dawson City. So if those discussions of 70 years before had set the line at 139, the Klondike goldfields would actually be in current-day Alaska. If you didn't know, some people don't. Dawson City and the Klondike goldfields are in Canada. With this find, all of a sudden the pressure was on to make a decision about this border in the mountains, and this is the one that affects us Whitehorse people going to Skagway and Haines people coming inland. And what they had decided in that 1824, 1825 agreement was that the border would be 10 marine leagues inland from the ocean. A league is 5.556 kilometers. So the Canadians said, well, of course we start measuring from the Channel Islands. And the Americans said, well, of course we start measuring from high tide. They couldn't decide what they were going to do. They sent it off to an international tribunal for a decision. On this tribunal was a British, I think he was a lord, called Alverston. He voted for the American argument. And really, is it a stronger argument? Perhaps. High tide? I don't know. Worth considering. But the Canadians were so ticked that he voted with the Americans that they refused to sign the agreement. Canada, however, was a colony, and it didn't matter if they didn't sign, because Britain just signed for them. This spurred the beginning of a bit of political distancing of Canada from both Britain and the States. And it made up part of the case after World War I for further distancing of Canada from London, control, and Britain. So, what I've found out is that at each of these border mountains, so it's a mountain peaks where they have decided makes the boundary line, at the base of each of those mountains is a boundary peak marker. And I think it would be interesting to see if I can find one this summer. Stay tuned.